Welcome back to Flyer Nation. We're almost halfway through the first semester, and so far we've seen success from several Lewis athletics teams, including with the women's volleyball team and both soccer teams. Here now to talk about the semester so far, as well as some other happenings in the Lewis Athletics Department, is Lewis University's Athletic Director, Dr. John Planek.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Not a problem. Thanks for coming out. So there's been a lot happening in the athletics department so far. Both soccer teams are playing well. The women's volleyball team's off to a strong start. How important is all of that early success to the athletics department as a whole?
I think it really sets the tone for your academic year, and that early success not only helps those teams that are currently participating or active in their sports, but those teams down the road, like men's and women's basketball, our track programs, men's volleyball. It seems if you have that success already instilled in your programs, it builds a little momentum and people sort of catch the fever, so to speak.
So last year, Lewis University placed 28th in the standings for the Learfield Sports Directors Cup, which not too many people know what that means, but it is kind of a big accomplishment. Can you explain that a little bit?
There's 301 Division II teams in the country, and Lewis finished 28th, so that gets us in the top 10% of all intercollegiate athletic programs. And what that measures is your overall accomplishments in all of your sports. So for instance, when our women's volleyball team goes to the NCAA tournament and participates, they get a certain number of points. When our men's volleyball team goes to the tournament, they get a certain number of points, and so on down the line. So all those accomplishments helps us greatly.
So far this year, there have been quite a few home games with pretty big turnouts from students that are on campus. How does the student support help the teams do well?
Well, I think it helps us tremendously, as our women's volleyball team always gets some good momentum going into their games, our men's volleyball team and men's and women's basketball. And I don't think that, I don't think we've lost too many games. I know our women's basketball team didn't lose last year at home. I don't believe our women's volleyball team, I think they've lost maybe one game in 3 years, and that was in the tournament. I don't think they've lost a regular season game in 3 years. So that type of home court advantage is very important, and I think that the student athletes feel very comfortable competing here on campus with their student support.
So speaking of student support, one of the things that started when you became the athletic director a couple years ago was hosting a Flyer fan night, which this year will be hosted next Thursday. What's the idea behind the Flyer fan night?
I think it's one more night to get people out and active on campus. So we have, as you've been there with we have a free three-point shooting contest, dunk contest. We give out some pizza and some T-shirts. We have some student activities that go on, student contests. So it's really a night for the campus, and it highlights our men's and women's basketball team. So I'm saying, hey, these are the people on our team. Why don't you come out and see them this year? It's kind of a fun activity. It's a quick hit night, and I think that our students, now our students who are juniors, this is sort of anticipated that this is something that we do on an annual basis. So we've started tradition, and I think by our student response, it's a popular one.
So you mentioned the student response. How popular has it been throughout the past couple of years? I mean, I've been to it myself, and it was definitely well attended. But from your perspective, how? Well,
I think it's very well attended, and again, it gives that night out for the students to come out and see. They might not know who's on the basketball team, especially some freshmen that they may not have seen on campus before, and then also helps spark the spirit for the coming year with those students that are returning and seeing that they're friends again.
So in the past couple of years, the department's done a lot with social media, including launching Facebook and Twitter pages for each sport, as well as an overall YouTube page. How important is that social media aspect to the teams?
I think it's very important because I think that's where students are. So as if I'm in the press box or next to you during the games, I know that people are tweeting things out about the game. People are following them. Those are what people are looking at. And if you look at the stands, you want to make sure that the students are watching the game. But there are students that will look at their phone and see what's going on. And I know this past weekend, as we were at the soccer game, watching our men's and women's team play on Friday night, and then I was hearing the tweets about how the cross-country team was out supporting our women's volleyball team on social media, and our cross-country coach was saying how they were at the game, and then our women's volleyball coach was appreciative that at the game, all on social media, Twitter. And so I think that's where young people are, and if you're not there, you're going to miss them. So we're there so we can connect with them.
So let's talk about some of the, I guess, nitty-gritty parts of the athletics department in your job. Over the summer, there were a couple personnel changes in the department. One of those was hiring head softball coach Becky Pearl, who replaces George DiMatteo. What was that process like to replace a 31-year head coach like George DiMatteo?
Yeah, George did a great job for us. And not only was he part of our softball program for 31 years, he was part of the Flyer championships in baseball. So he's on the national championship teams and an outstanding center fielder. and player for Lewis. So that was very hard replacing somebody that had that much Flyer history. But Coach Pearl comes in with a lot of experience, a lot of local experience. Has hit the ground running. Seems to be a very effective coach with our current team, and we think that she can do a great job for us and continue in the traditions that Coach DiMatteo had established as Lewis being a premier Division II program in the Midwest.
So another one of the changes came from within. It was the promotion of James Carney to head cross-country coach. What was behind that?
Yeah. James has done a lot of, Dana's expertise is more of the track and the throws and the jumps and hurdles and things of that nature. So that's really his forte, and he does a great job of it. And he was managing both programs. And James' strength is really distance, middle distance and distance. And he was really recruiting and focusing on that. So after a couple of years of being here, it just was a natural transition that James, since he's handled the distance and middle distance, that there'd be a good transition for him and give him some head coaching experience. So I think that was a needed adjustment, and one that Coach Schwarting approved of as well.
So we talk about, switching gears now, we'll talk about the Lewis Stadium, the new soccer field that was just built a couple of years ago. There's been some renovation or some new additions to that, a new concession stand, restroom area. And one question that you've been hearing, I know, ever since you've gotten on campus is, we have a football field. Is there ever going to be a football team to go along with it?
I think that we have a football field. Obviously, there's Lewis in the end zones, but I think that there's lots of capital improvements that the university wants to earmark dollars for before we get to football, and that's be quite an undertaking from a capital improvement project. And I know that a new student union is something that's desperately needed on our campus, and I think some of those projects probably make more sense right now before the football program is started. But it's certainly something that is on the stove. I'm not sure if it's on the back burner or front burner, but it's definitely on the stove.
So we'll also talk about the last weekend, which was homecoming weekend here at Lewis University. The athletics department was very active in that with different festivities having to do with alums. How important is it to be involved in homecoming weekend to include all of the former students in that?
Yeah, I think it's always important to have an alumni function, an alumni presence. And one of the things that we want to try to establish is on an annual basis, have some sort of game or feature focus for our alumni event. Last year, we started something with our men's and women's basketball program, our men's basketball program with an all-decade team, and we had that during alumni night. We'll be doing that again in January and having an all-decades team from the 70s for both the men and the women, and that will be also our alumni night. So dovetail off of bring back our all-decade team and having that as a focus point for alumni. Alumni are very important. They help move the program forward. They help in recruiting. They help financially by supporting. So I think we always want to make sure that we're paying attention to alumni and making sure that we include them. They're very, very helpful.
All right, well, Dr. Planek, is there anything else you'd like to add while you're here today?
No, I think that we really appreciate your support and LUTN's support of intercollegiate athletics at Lewis. The Flyer Nation show has been a tremendous asset for us. It's picked up nationally. I know our conference members have called me and said what a great job that we do. So we appreciate the support and all the support that you give us. And we hope that the Flyer Nation come out and support our intercollegiate athletic programs so our students on campus can get out to our games.
All right, well, thank you very much, Dr.
Thank you.
Planek.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk with Kim Verton of the Lewis women's volleyball team. Stay tuned.